At Christmas, my sister mocked my son's ornament. I stood up before 25 guests, revealed her debts, and announced, her free ride ends tonight. I'm Clara, 36 years old, female. I've been a pediatric nurse for 12 years, and I thought I'd seen every kind of heartbreak a person could handle, until I realized the worst kind doesn't happen in hospitals. It happens at home, quietly, in slow doses of love that get twisted into obligation. Victoria, my younger sister, 33, has always been the radiant one. The kind of woman who never just enters a room, she arrives. Growing up, she was the one with the laugh that made teachers forgive anything. She was also the one who learned early that if she cried, someone else would clean up the mess. Usually me. We were close once. After our mom died, it was just us and Dad, who worked nights driving delivery trucks. I basically raised Victoria. I packed her lunches, signed her permission slips, snuck her into movies when she was too young. Back then, I told myself I didn't mind. She needed me. But when you spend enough years being someone's safety net, you forget what it's like to stand up straight. Fast forward, I'm living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Tacoma with my kids, Sophie, 10, and Lucas, 7. Their dad, Aaron, left when Lucas was still in diapers. My life isn't glamorous, but it's good. My kids know love, stability, and that feeling of being safe when you fall asleep. I work long shifts, make every PTA meeting I can, and stretch every dollar until it squeaks. Victoria, meanwhile, built a whole personality out of pretending she's rich. Designer handbags, networking events that are really rooftop parties, $80 candles she doesn't even light. Her husband, Alexander, is a financial consultant. Decent money, but nowhere near what she wants people to think. So, she calls me. It started small, a loan for rent, when Alex's bonus was delayed, then car payments, then a temporary transfer for wedding expenses that somehow turned into 12 years of me quietly bleeding money, tuition, vacations, even her dog surgery. Every time she'd swear she'd pay me back, call me her angel, cry about how hard things had been for her. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to keep the peace, but mostly I wanted to believe that love meant helping. Last Christmas, I sent her $2,000 to cover holiday costs. She posted a photo 2 days later, her in a silver dress, champagne in hand, captioned, "Blessed to have built the life I deserve." No tag, no thanks, just that. I stared at the picture in my dark apartment, kids asleep in their hand-me-down pajamas, and for the first time, I felt something sharp and foreign, resentment. Still, I bit my tongue, until the phone call, the one where she said in that honeyed, dismissive tone, "Clara, about the Christmas party. Maybe it's better if Sophie and Lucas don't come this year. It's going to be elevated, you know? Adults only. And, well, I don't want them to feel out of place. Out of place. My kids?" I don't remember hanging up, just sitting there, shaking, staring at the same flickering bulb I keep meaning to replace. That was the moment something inside me, the nurse, the sister, the caretaker, went still. And in the silence that followed, something else started to wake up. Hey guys, real quick before we keep going, don't forget to sub and drop a like if you're enjoying the story. And tell me what you think in the comments. I'll feature the best one in the next video. That night after the phone call, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table long after midnight, the only light coming from the open fridge. Sophie's art was still pinned to the door, a crayon drawing of me holding both kids' hands under a crooked rainbow. Above it, a note in her handwriting, "You're the best mom in the world." And somehow that made it worse, because the best mom in the world had just let her kids get called low class. The next morning, I tried to tell myself I was overreacting. Maybe Victoria didn't mean it that way. Maybe she was just stressed. But I knew her tone. I'd heard it my whole life. That cool, effortless superiority that always left me feeling smaller. Growing up, she used to call me Nurse Clara, before I even was one. Not because she admired me, but because she liked the sound of authority, when she used it like a nickname. "Nurse Clara, fetch me a snack," she'd laugh when we were teenagers. I'd roll my eyes, but still do it. I told myself it was just sisterly teasing. Then came college. I worked double shifts at the diner and took out loans so she could focus on her studies. When I graduated nursing school, I sent her $500 as a graduation gift. She spent it on shoes. I told myself it was fine. She deserved something nice. The truth is, I trained her to see my sacrifices as background noise. When our dad passed, I handled everything. The funeral costs, the medical bills, the paperwork. She showed up 2 hours late in black silk, crying dramatically, and spent most of the wake taking selfies near the flower arrangements. People whispered about how beautiful she looked. Nobody noticed I hadn't eaten in 3 days. For years, I told myself it was love. That being the responsible one was how I showed it. But what I really was, what I'd been, was her insurance policy. Whenever her life cracked, she called me to patch it up. After that Christmas call, I tried to avoid her, but Victoria doesn't like silence. A few days later, she called again, cheerful, pretending nothing had happened. "Clara," she sang through the phone. "Did you get the invite I sent? The dress code's formal this year, and I'm doing a winter wonderland theme. Think sparkles, not sweaters." I didn't answer. She sighed. "Come on, don't be weird about the kids thing. It's just, my friends have a certain expectation, you know. I don't want them asking why your children aren't dressed appropriately." "Appropriately?" I asked, my voice flat. "You know what I mean," she said. "They're adorable, but they're not." Used to these kinds of events, my throat felt like it was closing. "You mean they're not rich enough?" I said quietly. She laughed, light, dismissive. "Oh my God, Clara, you're so sensitive. It's a party, not the Oscars." When she hung up, I just sat there, staring at my phone. That was the night I decided we were going. Not because I wanted to prove anything, but because I couldn't let my kids grow up thinking they had to be ashamed of where they came from, or of me. So I pulled their best clothes from the closet. Sophie's blue velvet dress from the school recital, Lucas's little gray blazer from his cousin's wedding. I polished my old black heels and pressed my uniform slacks because they were the only decent black pants I owned. We were going. Not as guests to impress her, but as a reminder that we existed. And somewhere deep inside, something hard and unfamiliar began to take root. It wasn't anger, not exactly. It was the quiet, steady clarity of someone who's finally stopped apologizing. The night of Victoria's Christmas party felt colder than usual, the kind of sharp December air that bites through your coat. Tacoma was glittering that night. Every house on her street looked like it had been plucked from a Hallmark movie. I parked 2 blocks away because every space near her place was already taken by sleek cars that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Sophie held my hand tightly as we walked up the driveway. Lucas trotted beside us, clutching the small, wrapped gift we'd brought, a framed family photo from 2 Christmases ago, the last one where we all still smiled for real. I'd spent an hour printing it and finding a cheap but pretty frame. It wasn't flashy, but it was honest. When we reached the front door, laughter spilled out before I even knocked. Victoria's house was glowing, literally. Twinkling lights wound around the banister. A 6-foot tree stood by the window, dripping in silver ornaments. The air smelled like cinnamon and money. Victoria answered the door wearing a white sequined gown that caught every light in the room. "Oh, you came," she said, her smile freezing for half a second before stretching into something polite. "How festive." Her eyes flicked down to Sophie's dress, then to my shoes, old, scuffed at the heel. "Come in," she said finally, stepping aside. Inside, the noise swallowed us. Her friends were everywhere. Champagne glasses clinking, heels tapping on marble, laughter sharp and bright. People I'd never met looked us over like we'd wandered in from the wrong movie. "Wow, Clara," said one woman with a glass of rosé and too much perfume. "You're Victoria's sister, right?" "The nurse?" I nodded. She smiled like she was talking to someone's personal assistant. "That's so noble. Not everyone can do that kind of work." Victoria swooped in, laughing. "She's a saint, really, always helping people. I could never do what she does." The way she said it wasn't admiration, it was pity, disguised as praise. Lucas tugged on my hand. "Mom, can I have some cookies?" Victoria's jaw tightened. "Kitchen's for staff, sweetheart," she said, voice sugary. "But maybe later." I felt the heat rise in my face. "They're just cookies," I said softly. "Of course," she said quickly, waving toward a catering tray. "Just maybe not near the crystal, okay?" I forced a smile, because I wasn't going to let her see me break. An hour later, she called everyone to the dining table, a massive oak thing, covered in gold plates and tiny candles. Each seat had a name card, except ours. When I asked, she blinked like she'd forgotten we'd even exist. "Oh, just sit wherever," she said. Dinner was a blur of conversation I didn't belong in. Stocks. Resorts, interior designers. Sophie and Lucas sat quietly, eating their food, doing their best to stay invisible. Then came the gift exchange. Guests handed over expensive bags, jewelry, designer wine, gadgets. When it was my turn, I handed Victoria the small wrapped frame. She tore the paper halfway, saw what it was, and gave a tight little laugh. "Oh, this is sweet," she said, holding it up. "A picture. From, what, a few years ago? Back when Clara was still doing that cute bob haircut phase." People chuckled, not cruelly, but enough to sting. She passed it to Alexander, her husband, who smiled politely, clearly confused. "You took this?" he asked. "I paid for it," I said quietly. "The photographer. It was a Christmas gift for all of us." "Oh, right," Victoria chirped. "You've always been so generous. Honestly, I don't know what I'd do without my big sister's help. She's practically family and my financial advisor." Laughter again, louder this time. Something in me cracked. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw what I'd refused to see for years, the way she thrived on my humility, how every thank you had really meant stay below me. I set down my fork. My voice was calm, too calm. "That's true, Vic. You really wouldn't know what to do without me. 12 years of help. Rent, tuition, trips, bills. $500,000 worth, actually. Funny how easy it is to forget numbers like that when someone else is paying them." The table went silent. Even the clinking stopped. Alexander's fork froze midair. "Wait, what?" Victoria's face drained of color. "Clara," she hissed, "this isn't the time." "No," I said, steady now. "It's exactly the time." And the room, that beautiful sparkling room, suddenly felt very, very small. For a few seconds, no one moved. It was like the entire party had been paused mid-breath. Victoria's eyes darted between me and Alexander, her carefully painted smile cracking under the weight of real panic. "Clara," she said, her voice trembling, but still coated in that fake sweetness she used when she wanted to sound calm. "You're embarrassing yourself. Let's talk about this later." I shook my head. "No, we've always done things later. Later when you'd pay me back. Later when you'd grow up. Later when you'd stop treating me like your personal bank account. Well, it's later now, Victoria." Someone near the end of the table whispered, $500,000? And another gasped softly. Alexander turned toward her, eyes narrowing. "What is she talking about?" Victoria laughed, a brittle, nervous sound that didn't reach her eyes. "She's exaggerating. She's always been dramatic. You know how nurses are. Overworked. Emotional." That word, emotional, hit me harder than any insult. I'd heard it my whole life. Emotional when I cried after Mom died. Emotional when I worried about Dad's bills. Emotional every time I asked Victoria to stop taking advantage of me. "No," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not emotional. I'm done. There's a difference." Then I pulled the small folded paper from my purse, the one I'd brought just in case I lost my nerve. I laid it on the table. Bank transfers, loan statements, receipts, every temporary favor since 2013. I kept records, Vic. Turns out being a nurse makes you pretty good at documentation. Alexander leaned forward, scanning the list. His expression shifted from confusion to disbelief, then to something darker. Victoria, this says Clara paid your tuition, your credit card bills, even your car lease? She stammered. It wasn't like that. She offered, no. I cut in. You cried. You begged. You said you'd lose everything if I didn't help. And every single time, I believed you. Because I thought we were family. Sophie's small hand slipped into mine under the table. Lucas was watching quietly, his eyes wide and scared. I squeezed her hand, not to comfort myself this time, but to tell her I was okay. Victoria's voice cracked. Why are you doing this? Here? In front of everyone? I met her gaze and felt something I hadn't in years. Power. Because you called my children low class. You told me they didn't belong here. And maybe we don't. Not in this house. Not in your world. But I'll be damned if I let them grow up thinking they're less than anyone. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. Alexander stood slowly. You've been taking her money all these years? Victoria's lip trembled. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, he said, voice cold. You've been lying to everyone. To me. To your own sister. He turned to me then, his face full of something that looked almost like shame. Clara. I had no idea. I just nodded. You weren't supposed to. Then I stood, took my kids' hands, and looked around the table. At all those polished strangers, staring like they'd just watched a live car crash. Merry Christmas, I said softly. Enjoy your party. We walked out through that glittering house, the laughter gone now, replaced by whispers. Behind me, I heard Victoria's voice break into a sob, calling my name, once, twice, but I didn't look back. When the door closed behind us, the winter air hit like a slap. Sophie's eyes were wet. Mom, she whispered, are you mad? I crouched down, brushing her hair back. No, baby, I'm not mad. I'm free. We walked to the car, in silence. My hands were shaking when I turned the key, but for the first time in years, the shaking didn't come from guilt. It came from relief. Update. Hey everyone, I didn't expect so many people to care about what happened at that party. I honestly thought I'd post it, get it off my chest, and maybe disappear. But the messages, the comments, the way so many of you said you finally stood up for yourself. I cried, reading them. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that. So, yeah, it's been 3 weeks since that Christmas, and, wow, it's been chaos. First off, Victoria completely lost it after we left. I didn't know this until later, but one of her guests, someone from Alexander's office, recorded part of the dinner on their phone, including the moment I laid out the receipts. That clip got passed around faster than gossip ever should. Within a day, half of her social circle had seen it. By Monday, Alexander had packed a bag and gone to stay at his brother's place. Victoria texted me nonstop that week. It started as begging. Please don't let this destroy my marriage. Then it turned to guilt trips. You humiliated me. You ruined everything I built. Finally, she went full scorched earth. You're jealous, pathetic, hateful. I didn't answer once. Then she showed up at my apartment. It was a Saturday night around 9 Wilds. The kids were watching a movie. I heard pounding on the door. Not knocking, pounding. When I opened it, she was standing there in sweatpants, makeup smeared, shaking. You destroyed me, she said, voice cracking. Do you understand that? Alex left. Everyone knows. I can't even show my face at work. I told her quietly, you did that, not me. She tried to push past me, but I blocked the doorway. That's when she started crying. Big, ugly sobs that turned into screaming. I did everything for you. You're nothing without me, she yelled, loud enough that my neighbor opened her door down the hall. I told Victoria to leave or I'd call the police. She stopped screaming, just stood there breathing hard. Mascara streaked down her face. Then she said the thing that gutted me most. You were supposed to love me more than this. And that's when I realized she truly didn't understand. To her, love had always meant sacrifice. Mine. After she left, Sophie came out from the bedroom, eyes wide. Is Aunt Victoria sick? She asked. I didn't know what to say. She's learning, I told her. Sometimes learning hurts. The next day, Alexander called me. He apologized for the way he'd believed the illusion. He said he'd already checked their finances and realized I wasn't lying. He confronted her about the transfers, the lies, even the emergency debts she blamed on him. She's been living off you for over a decade, he said quietly. I don't know how you did it. I told him I did it because she was my sister, and I didn't want her to drown. He paused a long time before saying, she's going to have to learn to swim now. Victoria finally went quiet after that. Her friends dropped her, the party photos vanished from her Instagram, and for the first time in her adult life, she had to face the silence she'd filled with glitter and pretense. I started therapy a few days later. My therapist said something that hit me hard, that protecting someone too much can be a form of neglect toward yourself, that I wasn't kind, I was complicit. It's strange to think that loving someone too deeply can actually damage both of you. The kids have been doing okay. Sophie made me a little card that says, our family doesn't need fancy, we have love. Lucas asked if we could make our own Christmas dinner next year, just us, with mac and cheese. Honestly, that sounds perfect. As for Victoria, she sent one last message yesterday. It just said, I got a job, I'll start paying you back. Someday. I didn't reply, but I smiled. Because for the first time in 12 years, she didn't ask me for money. And that silence, that felt like peace. The peace didn't last long. About a month after that update, things started to shift again. Little ripples at first. Random hang-up calls. Unfamiliar numbers texting me, you should be ashamed of what you did to your sister. I blocked them all, but it kept happening. At first I thought it was trolls. Then I realized it was people from Victoria's circle. The ones who'd vanished when the truth came out. Apparently, she started telling everyone I'd fabricated the financial records to make her look bad. She even told one friend that I was jealous because Clara's always been the plain one, the helper, the nurse who never had a real life. It was textbook Victoria. When she couldn't control the story, she tried to rewrite it. But what she didn't know was that Alexander had already handled things in a way she couldn't spin. He'd filed for legal separation and frozen their joint accounts, demanding an audit of all shared finances. When the accountant traced tens of thousands of mystery deposits over the years, all from my name, the story collapsed. Victoria couldn't talk her way out of that. That's when she turned from manipulative to desperate. One morning, I was leaving for work when I found my car keyed, long, deliberate scratches down both sides. At first, I thought it was random vandalism. Then I saw what was carved into the driver's side. Traitor. I just stood there, staring at it, numb. My neighbor, Mrs. Taylor, came out holding her coffee and said she'd seen someone outside the night before. A woman with long blonde hair driving a white SUV, Victoria's car. I didn't call the cops. I didn't even tell Alexander. I just took photos, filed an insurance claim, and kept going. Because at this point, I understood what was happening. This wasn't just her unraveling. This was her trying to pull me back into her chaos. And I refused to go back. Still, it hurt. There were nights I'd catch myself scrolling through old pictures, the two of us on Dad's porch, laughing with coffee mugs, or at her bridal shower when she made me wear a ridiculous pink sash that said, "Best sister ever." For years, I believed I was. Now I wondered if I'd just been the easiest one to use. Then one afternoon, everything took a sharp turn. I was at the hospital, finishing a shift, when the receptionist paged me. "There's a visitor asking for you," she said. I walked to the front desk, and there she was, Victoria, except she didn't look like herself. Her hair was a mess, eyes red, makeup smeared, like she'd been crying for hours. She held a manila envelope in her hands and looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. "Clara," she said softly, "please, just listen." Every instinct in me screamed to turn around, but I didn't. I just crossed my arms and waited. She held out the envelope. "These are receipts. I started selling things. The jewelry, the handbags, the stupid designer junk. I made a list. I'm going to pay you back. Every dollar." For the first time, I saw something real in her. Not the glossy arrogance or the fake tears, just raw, messy guilt. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything, for the party, for the lies, for making you feel small, so I could feel big." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. She looked at me for a long moment, like she was searching for the version of me that used to fix everything. Then she said, "You were right, you know. Love isn't supposed to cost this much." She turned to leave, but stopped in the doorway. "Clara, I don't expect forgiveness. I need you to know I'm trying." Then she was gone. That night, I opened the envelope. Inside were receipts, handwritten notes, and a folded check for $1,000. It wasn't much compared to what she owed, but for her, for Victoria, it was monumental. I sat there on the couch holding that check, crying quietly while the kids slept. Not because of the money, because for the first time in 12 years, my sister finally did something that didn't come with a price tag. Update 2. Hey everyone, it's been almost a year since that Christmas dinner imploded, and honestly, I barely recognize my life anymore. In the best way possible. The biggest change? Peace doesn't feel strange anymore. For months after the party, I kept waiting for another shoe to drop, a new crisis, another call, another apology that turned into manipulation. But the silence that used to scare me now feels like breathing clean air after a storm. Victoria kept her word. Slowly, quietly, she started paying me back. Not huge amounts, $50 here, $200 there, but steady, consistent. She sold her luxury purses, the watch Alexander had given her, even her car. Alexander finalized their divorce 6 months ago. He called once to let me know he'd read my first post after someone sent it to him, and that he hoped I was doing okay. He sounded different, humble, even kind. I wished him well, and that was the end of it. Victoria's been working at a children's clothing boutique, minimum wage, long hours, standing all day, a life she used to mock me for. But when I visited her at the shop last month, she looked real. Tired, but real. She wore no makeup, her nails weren't manicured, and there was no perfume cloud following her. Just her, stripped of all that glitter she used to hide behind. "Clara," she said, smiling shyly when she saw me. "I'm 2 payments ahead," I smiled back. I noticed. We had coffee that day at a small diner near the hospital. No accusations, no pity, just 2 women trying to remember how to be sisters again. At one point, she said quietly, "I used to think you helped me because you felt sorry for me. Now I know you did it because you loved me." And I took that and turned it into entitlement. I'm sorry. I didn't say I forgave her. Not yet. But I reached across the table and held her hand, and that was enough. Therapy has helped me untangle a lot. The guilt, the codependency, the way I confused loyalty with obligation. My therapist says boundaries are like fences with gates. You can still let people in, but they have to knock first. I like that image. Sophie and Lucas are thriving. Sophie joined the school choir, and Lucas wants to learn guitar. Last week, they helped me hang a "no debt, no drama" sign in our kitchen. Sophie's idea, of course. She said it's our family rule. Christmas is coming again soon. This time, we're doing it at my place. Just us, the kids, and, this surprised me, Victoria. She offered to bring homemade cookies, said she's been practicing because not everything comes in gold packaging anymore. There's something poetic about that. Her learning to make sweetness from scratch, instead of buying it ready-made. Sometimes I still think about that night, the way the lights glittered off her dress as everything fell apart. Back then, I thought exposing her was revenge. But now, I think it was just the truth finally catching up. And the truth has a funny way of setting everyone free. even the person it destroys first. If you told me a year ago I'd be looking forward to seeing Victoria again, I'd have laughed. But now, yeah, I am. Not because she's changed completely, but because I have. I'm not her safety net anymore. I'm not the quiet nurse who keeps everyone else afloat while drowning silently. I'm just Clara, a mom, a sister, a woman who finally understands that love without respect isn't love at all. The next Christmas came quietly. No glittering chandeliers, no valet parking, no catered trays of canapes. Just our little apartment filled with the smell of cinnamon and laughter. Sophie was helping Lucas decorate sugar cookies that looked like they'd been frosted by a hurricane, but I didn't care. It was ours. Around 5, there was a soft knock at the door. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, heart fluttering a little more than I wanted to admit. When I opened it, there she was, Victoria. She was holding a tray covered in foil, cheeks pink from the cold. No designer dress this time, just jeans, a cream sweater, and the same nervous smile she used to have when we were kids. Hey, she said softly. Hey, I answered. Come in. Sophie ran to hug her first. Lucas followed because underneath everything, they still loved their aunt. Victoria crouched down and hugged them both, like she was afraid they'd disappear. For a second, she looked at me over their shoulders, eyes full of something that looked a lot like gratitude and shame mixed together. She handed me the tray. I baked gingerbread, she said. Burned half the first batch, but I got it right eventually. I laughed. That sounds about right for your first try. We ate together at my small dining table, the same one that had survived years of late night bills and school projects. The lights on the tiny artificial tree flickered softly, and for the first time in forever, there was no tension, just warmth. Halfway through dinner, Victoria pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. Another payment, she said. It's not much, but I wanted to give it to you today. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a check for $3,000 and a handwritten note for Sophie and Lucas's future. I know I can't undo what I did, but maybe I can start helping you build instead of drain you. My throat tightened. I looked up, and she was watching me, her eyes wet. You don't have to. Yes, I do, she interrupted softly. For 12 years, you carried both of us. I can't erase that. But I can walk beside you now instead of on your back. Sophie, bless her heart, beamed. See, Mom? We told you she'd be nice again. Victoria laughed. A real laugh this time, not the brittle one that cracked under pride. After dinner, the kids opened their small presents, thrift store finds, handmade things, but they lit up like it was Christmas morning at Rockefeller Center. Victoria helped Lucas assemble a toy truck, her hands careful, patient. Watching them, I realized something important. The revenge wasn't in humiliating her that night. It was in this moment, in the fact that she was finally human again. When she left that night, she hugged me at the door. Clara, she said quietly, thank you for not giving up on me, even when I deserved it. I told her the truth. I didn't do it for you. I did it for my kids, and maybe for the girl you used to be. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheek. I'm trying to find her again. After she left, I stood by the window, watching her drive away. Snow had started to fall, thin and quiet, dusting the streetlights. Sophie tugged at my sleeve. Mom, are we rich now? I smiled. Not in money, sweetheart, but yeah, I think we finally are. Later, after the kids were asleep, I sat at the kitchen table, the note and check beside me. I thought about everything. 12 years of silence. One explosive dinner, the ruin, the rebuilding. It hit me that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. And you decide who earns the key. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel like the caretaker or the victim. I just felt like myself. And maybe that was the real ending all along. Not revenge, not repayment, but reclamation. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't destroying someone, it's watching them rebuild and realizing you finally don't need to hold the pieces for them anymore.